Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Worth and Wealth seminars. My name is Jennifer Duran, a program associate here at the Office of Economic Empowerment. And today's topic is how our stories influence our relationships. And now it is my pleasure to introduce Samantha Morales. Samantha Morales is an investment manager, financial advisor, and founder of Wealthfin 360, where she provides personalized financial planning and investment services to professionals, first-gen wealth builders, and business owners. She has over 20 years of experience in financial services, and she co-founded Ahora Inc., a nonprofit supporting low-income individuals, and serves in leadership roles in Salem State University. Samantha, it's an honor to have you here today. Thank you, and I will hand it over to you.
Thank you, Jennifer, so much. And thank you to everyone that has joined us for this second webinar of 2026. We had a great financial kickoff webinar last month. So I'm really looking forward to talking about today's topic and how does our money stories influence our relationships? Being in the month of February, this is a great topic to talk about. So I'm excited to get into it. If you have any comments or questions or anything that you'd like to share with the group, we'll keep your name anonymous, of course. But if there's anything that you can relate to or anything that you want to share in the chat, please do so. And Jennifer can keep us posted on any questions that come up during the presentation. We'd like to hear from you. So as Jennifer mentioned, my name is Samantha Morales. I'm an accredited financial counselor and coach. I'm also an investment advisor. I've worked in the financial service industry for over 20 years, and I enjoy working with young professionals, first-generation wealth builders, small business owners, I really enjoy walking. I really enjoy the beach, and I like exploring new places with the family, whether it's museums, cities, or the towns, or the states, or the countries. So I really enjoy learning something new from different places. Before I continue, I do want to say that today's webinar is for educational and informational purposes only. Anything that we share does not constitute financial, legal, or tax advice. This webinar also addresses money behaviors and beliefs from an educational and coaching perspective. And it does not provide psychological or therapeutic guidance. By no means I have a psychology background, but I do come from that financial coaching and financial counselor perspective. Before you make a decision that impacts a unique situation, please consult with a qualified professional before making any decisions. So our objective for this afternoon is to, one, identify your personal money story and understanding how it affects your financial decisions. The second objective is to recognize how different money stories create tension or harmony in relationships. And it doesn't have to be in romantic relationships. It can also be in friendships. It could be with family members. So that is the lens in which we're going to talk about how our money stories influence our relationships, all kinds of relationship, roommates. So anything that impacts our finances and our relationships, we'll go over that this afternoon. And then lastly, we're going to talk about how to practice open and healthy financial communication with a partner or a loved one, or again, a friend or a roommate. So we definitely first want to identify, second, recognize, and then third, how do we put things into practice to improve or strengthen our communication when it comes to money or our finances. So before we go into details of financial behaviors in our money story, I first want to talk about what is a money story. So just so it's a set of beliefs, emotions, and experiences that we've learned over time about money and what it represents in our life. That's our story. And the way we have those set of beliefs and emotions and experiences, it's how it influences how we handle our money. It shapes how we earn money, how we spend it, how we save it, how we invest it, and how do we give it throughout our lives. So we sometimes it's not something that we have it present at all times, but all those little beliefs and emotions and experiences are influencing how we handle our money on a day-to-day basis. And we'll talk about that as we go through the presentation. Our money story also helps us feel how we feel about money. It helps us determine whether we feel safe, anxious, excited, or guilty around our financial matters. And again, I really want to hear from the participants if any of this language relates to you, if this is something that you felt growing up, or this is something that you felt now, or that you see it on other in your circle, put it in the chat. And again, we'll love to hear from you if this is something that you experience it, you have experienced, or you have seen other experience. And the third one is that money story is how we communicate when it comes to talking about finances or money. It influences whether we talk about money or finances openly. It influences whether we avoid the topic completely. And if you grew up in an environment where money was not discussed openly, maybe that's something that you carry on if you do have a partner, if you have children, or if you have a roommate. It's something that carries or goes with you, and those sort of emotions and experience influence how we communicate with money. So this is the context in which we are going to talk about what is our money story and how it influences our relationships. So how our money story influences our financial behavior. I want to share some research that the Journal of Financial Planning has put together that shows that people's beliefs about money are closely linked to how we save, spend, borrow money, or make financial decisions. So it's not something that we grew up imagining. It's something that it actually has been researched and across many people. And this is how our story influences how we save, spend, borrow, and make financial decisions. Also, these beliefs are often shaped by how we experience money growing up, as I said a few minutes ago, and how our experiences throughout our younger years, our adult years, how those experiences also impact how we make the decisions and the life events and experiences that we have with financial institution, for example. So those early experiences and how is it reinforced over time through life events influence our financial behavior. And understanding our money beliefs can also explain our patterns in our financial lives. So sometimes we feel ashamed of decisions that we make or how we feel about money, but it's not something, again, that it was just something that you decide to do. It's just things that are learned and experiences that influence those feelings, those emotions, and the way we come across different scenarios and how we make decisions when it comes to our financial lives. So now that we've known what our money story is, there's research that it actually, the way you grew up, the conversations that you had or that you didn't have growing up influence financial behavior. So now I want to go over different sources of where money stories come from. And a lot of people may relate to those different sources of where a money story comes from. And again, it's important to understand where they come from and how they happen so we can better communicate when it comes to money in our finances. So growing up in a family of uh, where things were scarce or things were very abundant. So people that grew up in those kinds of family background will have different experiences and will have different mindset and financial behaviors. Whether your family discussed again openly about money, finances, or was it something that your family kept their secret? Things looked fine in the open, but maybe behind doors, your parents or your family members struggle to pay bill or struggle to even make ends meet. Did you witness stress, conflict, or silence anytime your family talked about finances? Again, all those things will influence what we think about money, how we make decisions, whether we are open about it or not. And did you grow up in a household where you observed your parents, how they earned, how they spent, and how they saved money? So again, looking and experiences those situation will influence the way you behave around money. So does anyone in the audience, do you relate to any of those things, the way you grew up with your family? I can tell you personally, I didn't hear my parents talk about money at all growing up. So I didn't even know what a bank was or a bank account or how money was earned. It was not something that we talked about openly. So I'm just curious, uh, did you come from a family that talked about it or they just kept it a secret? Did you see tension or conflict in your family growing up? If you feel comfortable sharing, we'd love to hear from you.
Yes, some people are saying yes, all four categories resonate, and some are finding it very relatable.
Great. Thank you for sharing those.
Someone
Okay,
mentioned here that they had parents with a scarcity mindset, and we did not have a sense of money tools, but we did have the message to save.
that's great. Thank you for sharing those. So family, the way we grew up, the way our parents or our family members dealt with money or finances influence our financial behavior. Also, there are generational patterns that influence the way we see or behave around money. You could have uh, family members that grew up during the Depression era, for example, and had a really strong trauma with the economy around that time. And then that trauma that they had, now you inherit that trauma because now you're thinking and growing up, and as you work that, oh my gosh, I need to save because hardship may come anytime. When my father was growing up and my mom growing up, they went through X. So all that trauma, it's something that was also instilled in you. Immigration experiences coming from one country to another. For example, if your parents or your family members or you came from a different country, just starting over, it's also um, an influence that will impact the way you deal with money. That can also impact trust in the financial system or trust in just walking down the bank and talking to someone about your money, how to open an account, and that can also influence how you deal with your finances, not just on a decision-making aspect, but also on a day-to-day basis. Again, that Depression era mindset passed down. If you have family members that grew up, that were working during the 1930s, when the economy was really dire, growing up with a mindset, it also creates that impact of building the money story that money is scarce or that you need to save or that maybe you can't trust the financial system completely because your money will not be there tomorrow. And then there's just generational families in the different generations that they just don't talk about money. It's not something that they even bring it up. They don't think they need to, especially for younger generation. It's not something that they feel comfortable talking about it openly. Another aspect that influence our story is cultural influences. Um, maybe there are some cultures, or maybe your family grew up in a way that um, success, generosity, and debt. You talked about that. What does it mean to give? What does it mean? Maybe debt is not something that they support. Um, Maybe success is looked differently rather than in dollars. Maybe it's looked in a different way. Maybe success is looked in measured by dollars. Maybe there are different gender roles and expectations around money. So that can also influence the way you see money and the decisions that you make. Maybe you come from a religious or community background that values wealth in a completely different way. It's not just the material things, but maybe the way you do give, or the way you spend improving your community. And also the culture influences that I think a lot of us are impacted nowadays is the how media portrays financial success. Um, how a lot of influencers show wealth by showing how much money they have invested and how much their investment has grown, or the type of houses they buy, or where they live, or the car. So there's a lot of influence, especially in the social media, that can influence your point of view, your mindset. What does it mean to have wealth? And then lastly, personal experiences. Sudden financial loss. You lost your job unexpectedly. You went through a divorce that you were not planning for. Now, another one, you are a caregiver for your aged parents. Maybe you just went through a recent illness. So maybe someone in your family went through a recent illness, and that also created an impact in your life that created those emotions and belief about around money and making decisions, your finances. Maybe you had unemployment and set your career back a couple of years. So now you need to start over in a different career. And then maybe, for those that recently graduated from college, it's your first job, it's your first time experiencing debt, it's your first time experiencing financial independence, and not understanding how to make decisions around money, not just today, but also long term for your retirement, or for your first big purchase. So those are the four main things that actually influence how we build our money story in our beliefs. Any additional comments, questions, or anything that you would like to add? Okay, so I wanted to take a moment, and I want to hear from you. If you can take a moment and complete this sentence. Money is security for you, freedom, stress, power, love, or fear. So if you don't mind sharing, you can put it in the chat. And again, Jennifer will say those comments. And we just want to see how you complete this sentence. When you think about money, what does it mean? What does it come to your mind when you think about it? Is it stressful? Do you feel secure? Money's freedom. Money gives you control and influence. Money gives you fear. Oh my gosh, I'm never going to have enough. Or is it love that helps you care for others?
We have security and freedom. You have freedom, fear, love, security. Yes. More money is freedom and security. And then we do have a question that was posted a little bit earlier, which is, how can I build a better money story for my child? I don't want to pass the negative qualities down to the next generation, which I'm sure you'll answer throughout the course of the presentation.
That's a great question, and that's a great comment. So definitely we'll, as we continue in the presentation, we'll talk about healthy communication and tools that you can exercise with your children or with other family members. And as we get through it, if your specific question is not answered, please, we'll talk a little bit about it if I don't answer that question. But I think, as we continue, we'll go over those. How do we break the cycle and have healthy communication with those that are around us, especially our children? Great question. So again, I want us to understand and kind of look back and look within ourselves. What does it mean for us when we think about money? What's that money story that we grew up with? What's that emotion that's there when we have to make a decision when it comes to our finances? Again, it's not to feel bad about it, but how do we overcome it? And how do we try to navigate it to have that positive impact that we want in our lives, but also in the lives of those that are around us? So I want to talk about money stories and money scripts. And they're two slightly different ones, but you hear about money script a lot. I think there's a lot of people online that talk about money script. So I wanted to go over what's the difference so we can see how it's integrated within our thinking and decision making. As we talked about, stories are personal experiences, and those are the messages that we've obtained about money over our lives. Again, it starts from when we were a child, what we see, what we heard, and what we experience, what we saw our parents or our family member experience starts building our money story, because that influences your personal experiences. And then the money script that we have in our mind is those beliefs and behavior that grow out of those stories. So as I said here, your money story creates those scripts in our head, and we'll go over that. Stories are personal experiences and messages that we heard or experienced growing up. And the scripts are the beliefs and behavior that we obtain from those stories. So this is kind of like a sequence of how do we get to the script, which is that thing, that the mindset that we have that helps us talk about money or helps us avoid the conversation all completely. So the money script does not appear from anywhere. Again, it's not something that you decide to take on. It's something that is taken from early experiences. So I give you an experience here. Growing up, you heard we can't afford that. You went to the store, hey, I want this, we cannot afford that. That's an experience. You also watched adults argue about money. If you lived in a household, maybe you have someone that spent and someone that saved, and the tension that brought, you saw two adults arguing about money. That's the experience you went through. The story that now you are seeing is what? Money, it's scarce and it's stressful. You heard, we don't have money for that. We cannot afford that. You saw people fighting over money. You saw people fighting over the finances. Now you're thinking, wait a minute, finances and talking about money is stressful, brings tension, but it's also scarce. We could not afford anything. That's the story. So now your script is going to be, okay, I'm just going to avoid conversations because I don't want stress when it comes to talk about money. I don't want to bring tension to my relationship. I don't want to bring tension to my friendship circle. I don't want to bring tension with my children. So I'm just going to avoid the conversation all completely. And I'm going to be really cautious when I'm talking about money. So again, starts with the experience. And then you start building that story. You start seeing that story based on the experience. And that's the script that you have now when it comes to your money. I'm just going to avoid it. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to be stressed. I don't want it to cause any tension. I'm just going to be really careful. So now I want to talk about those 4 money scripts that come from those stories and the experiences. So the first one is avoiding money, talking about money. Because money is bad. Money brings stress. Money brings tension. And I just don't like the experience that I go through when we talk about money. So now what's your behavior that comes from that? Again, experience, go through story to script, and now it's related to a behavior. What's your behavior? I'm just going to avoid talking about financial planning or any kind of conversations that has to do with money or finances, which leads now you're undermining without knowing how successful you can be in building wealth or making more money or saving more money. That behavior also, it's attached to feeling guilty around spending money or receiving money. I mean, how many of us have gone to the store and bought a few things for ourselves, a nice pair of shoes, or a new purse, and then we go home and we feel guilty about the money that we just spent. I mean, I've been there. Or maybe how bad you feel receiving money, because you start thinking, well, a minute, the person that's giving the money, maybe that person needs it more than I do. I don't really need this money. Like, I don't deserve this money. So even receiving money brings guilt. Or sometimes we give money away because we want to feel good about ourselves. Maybe that is a behavior that comes from that script. And how does it impact relationships? So again, if you have a partner, this could be a friend, this could be a roommate. Now you feel frustrated because now there's lack of engagement. You can have one in the relationship that is just really secretive when it comes to their finances. Maybe they go to the store and they hide a bag in the trunk and they don't show it to anyone because they don't want people to see that they spent money. So they avoid completely just talking about it. Maybe they just avoid talking about shared goals or shared planning because they feel bad and they just want to avoid talking about money. And this is a script that can prevent couples from building a secure foundation together, because now each person may be just secret about the things that they spend or the money that they make. So they just avoid engaging all completely. So the next one is you worship money. Money solves all problems. Money brings happiness. And what's the common behavior there? You are one that is you spend money. Anytime you have money in your pocket, we spend it. We use it to avoid emotional feelings when it comes to, if we have a bad day, I'm just going to go buy, something nice to myself. Maybe you overworking at the expense of your relationship and health because you just need to have more money, more money, more money, more money. If I have more money, I'm going to be happier. If I have more money, I can have this. If I have more money, I can buy the things I want. If I have more money is the script that you have in your head. And that's the behavior that brings now you're overworking because you just need to have more money. And maybe it brings you dissatisfaction even when your income increases, because we have in our head, well, it's not going to be enough, because if I don't have $5 million, if I don't have $10 million, it's not going to give me the happiness of the freedom that I need. And that leads to just a little more will finally be enough. And we always work and I need more, I need more, and I need more. And that impacts our financial stability because again, we're never going to have enough. So we saving too much. This will create an emotional burnout because again, we always feel like we're not going to have enough, and happiness, it's not there. And maybe if you have someone that you live with, they may also feel neglected or trapped in the endless cycle of striving, because the more you work or the more you pay attention to how much you make, the more you think it's going to bring happiness or solve your problems. Script number 3, money status. And net worth is basically the net of what you own versus what you owe. So that bottom line equals self-worth. There are a lot, maybe people that will measure how much they're worth by that net number. So what's the common behavior with that script? You overspend to appear successful to others. Maybe you want the newest car, or the biggest house on the street. Maybe you want to travel all the time, or you're buying expensive clothing, or you're wearing a lot of jewelry. So you're consistently comparing what you have in your possessions, and you're connecting that to a successful lifestyle. Maybe you're experiencing shame because you don't have the right income or the amount of assets that people think that you should have. And I think we talked about that during our last webinar. Are the amount of assets equal to wealth? Our amount of assets equal to having a high net worth equals to being successful. And then we also use money to gain that social approval and validation from others, especially for that's influencers on social media showing wealth through material things, which gives them status and validation. So what's our impact? What's our relationship impact if we have this money script? Tension. Maybe your priorities are not where they need to be. Maybe things in the external appearance are valued more than security, simplicity, or family. This script can also lead to overspending. It can bring conflict. It can also bring misalignment with values and goals as well. And our last one that I want to talk about, okay, those are the main ones that have been shown in research. The last one is money vigilance. Money must be carefully guarded and protected at all times. And that sounds such a right thing to do. Yeah, we should be careful. We should protect it. We should guard it. But that money script can also bring behaviors that can hinder growth. We can have extreme frugality. Maybe we don't spend everything. We just completely save everything. Even when your resources are plentiful. Like I have experiences working with individuals. I have plenty of savings, but they'd rather just lack on other things because they just don't want to touch that bank account, the money in the bank account. You just gotta, it just goes to the extreme. And that gives you persistent anxiety around any spending, because again, that also brings the anxiety, oh my gosh, what if I don't have enough? Like, I just need to protect it because the more I have, the better. So you don't even like to spend it. And that brings anxiety because you're also lacking on other things. And it's difficult to enjoy the money because you don't want to spend it, or even you don't even want to celebrate achievements. And then feeling that constant pressure of vigilance about financial security. Because if that is not there, then you don't feel financial secure. So what's the impact to our relationship if you're there? It may be restrictive. You may feel controlling. You will feel that endless joy because you're never going to be happy because you're not enjoying your life because you don't want to spend the money. And that brings that tension with, again, a partner, your friend, your roommate. But as it says here, balance is key. It's okay to guard and protect the money that you work really hard to make, but it cannot be extreme. We should find joy. We should find peace when it comes to our finances. So again, those are the 4 script. What's the common behavior attached to those, and what's the relationship impact? So I want to talk about how to show up early, because sometimes, again, we go through our lives and we may not even think that it's a money script or a money story that's influencing our decision making. So I want to go over a few examples. How is it showing up in your day-to-day so we can identify it and then adjust if we need to. You're the spender. You believe money is here to enjoy. You need to enjoy life now. You prioritize experiences like going on a cruise or traveling overseas, and that is how you enjoy your life. You'd rather pay for experiences than to have long-term security. Or maybe you're the saver. You find security in accumulation. You carefully plan for purchases, and you have that budget, and you go through that budget before you make a decision. And then you feel uncomfortable if you just spend money without budgeting it or planning for it in advance. Maybe just avoid, you procrastinate financial tasks. You know, this also can show up really strong in relationships, or again, if you're a roommate, you ignore bills. You ignore those bills that you don't want to deal with. If I don't look at it, if I don't deal with it, they'll go away. And it feels overwhelming just by taking a look at it and making a decision. And now that is also one that can come with a lot of credit card debt. You know, if you have 5 or 10 or 12 credit cards, and just looking at the pile of bills, it just brings tension and anxiety, and you don't even want to deal with it because it just doesn't feel good. Maybe you're someone that seeks status by purchasing expensive things, and you compare what you have to others. And we equate spending and what we have to achievements. Maybe if I buy a really nice car, then I have achieved X. If I make a certain amount of money, then I have achieved X. So this is how it can show up on our daily lives. You either overspend, you save, you avoid, or you just buy expensive things to seek the status that you want. So I want to talk about now, because this is related to relationships. How different money scripts interact with one another. And as we know, as we talked about, money is not just about the numbers. Again, it's about meaning, the values, and the connections we make. It's also understanding how different scripts interact when we have in financial conversations, or when we engage emotionally with others around finances, or around the way we want to live life together. So I want to talk about, let's say if you have someone that's a saver and you have someone that's a spender in the same household or in the same friendship circle. What happens? You have one that's prioritizing security and future planning, while you have the other one that's enjoying and living life now. Neither is wrong. One is not better than the other, but without the dialogue, then the resentment will build. Because now you have one person saying, well, you spend too much money. What are you doing? We have to think about the future. We have to think about planning. So again, if we understand our script, it will improve our dialogues and how we make decisions. It's all about bringing awareness and how we practice empathy so we can understand where the other person is coming from. So what if you have a relationship that one is an avoider and the other one is a vigilant person? One person wants to ignore financial details all entirely. I've seen couples that just, they don't even want to think about how many bills need to be paid, how much are we paying for taxes, how much are we paying for certain bills. They just don't want to deal with it. And then you have another partner, another roommate, another person that it's obsessing over every transaction. They get up in the morning, they look at the bank account, every transaction is accounted for. So that silence, if they don't talk about the script, brings control. So you may have one person controlling the entire financial relationship. So you may have one person just completely unaware and ignorant of what's going on in their finance, and then you can have the other one that just controlling everything. So that disconnection creates conflict. Let's say you have one that's a status seeker, and then you have a frugal partner. One uses money to project success and belonging, while the other one just wants simplicity and stability. One just says, I just want peace. I don't care if I'm simple. I just want to have a stable life. I just want to have enough money to pay for my needs. Material things, they don't mean anything to me. So now those two values are going to clash because one is going to be seen as, I don't have enough, while the other one feels, yeah, we have enough. We are stable. So again, understanding where the other person is coming from, not to create blame or tension, but rather to bring awareness and practice healthy communication, because we care about the other person. Money scripting actions. Who pays the bills? Who makes the decision in the relationship? What's the communication style? Is it calm? Are we going to be emotional and defensive talk about it? Again, I want us to focus on how does it impact our relationships, and understanding that will help us create healthier relationships and healthier communications. %34%, based on a survey done by LendingTree in 2023, 34% of partners identify money as a source of ongoing conflict. And there are at least 58 arguments a year between couples about money. So it's something that we definitely, it impacts relationships. It's not just romantic relationships. 65% of people that were surveyed admit breaking their budget when socializing with friends. 65%. 41% experienced tension with friends over money-related issues. So again, this is not just someone that you live with. This is also a friendship circle. And 36% have reported ending a friendship specifically because of money. That's a lot. We want to fix that. So now that we understand our experiences influence our money story, our story influences our money scripts, our script impact our financial behavior, which impacts our relationships. So now, how do we practice healthy communication? Because we don't want to have a battleground. We want to have opportunities for a deeper connection, understanding of stories, experiences, so we can have a healthier relationship. So I want to share 3 essential communication tools. Number one, this is a really important one. Name the script, not the behavior. So Samantha, what does that mean? So let's say you're in a conversation and instead of saying you're so irresponsible with money, try instead, well, it sounds like money represents freedom for you. Can you help me understand what that means? You see the difference? One can bring tension, the other one can bring harmony and can start a conversation. It invites curiosity. You can learn where the other person is coming from instead of being defensive. Don't worry about the behavior. We need to talk about the script first because the script is what influenced the behavior. Any questions there? Any comments on that one? Because that's the start. Let's talk about the script. Let's talk about what's causing the behavior.
No comments at the moment, but if they come in, I'll let you know.
Thank you so much. Again, talking about this scripts and our behavior is a little bit harder than, reconciling our bank account because this involves emotion, this involves experiences. So it's important to talk about those things. So again, name the script, not the behavior. Freedom, money represents freedom is the script. So maybe that person is spending money because it represents freedom, paying for experiences. The saver, the other person that wants to be save more, is going to see overspending as an irresponsible thing to do. So you got to separate those two. Now the second one, you're going to separate values from tactics. Values are things like security. Some people value freedom. I just want to be able to, travel wherever I want, buy things that I want. Maybe you value just giving money to others. And you want stability and you value peace. I want to do everything that brings peace to my life. So it's how you value. So separate values from tactics and you start with the value. What are the values that I really treasure that I don't want to compromise? Then the tactics or how you support those values is then what you're going to plan for. So if security or generosity could be supported by budgeting, okay? Having a budget, then you can see how much money you can save, how much money you have to allocate to your bills, and that can bring security. And then at the end, you can see, okay, how much money do I have to spend it on myself? And that can also bring that sense of freedom because now you know exactly how much you're spending and how much you have saving and how much you have left just for yourself. You can separate accounts. If you have one that's spent and the one that's saved, having to separate accounts may be the tactic. You can have an account that's completely going to support paying for bills and saving. And then you can have another account that is for the vacation fund or I want to buy a new car fund. So having separate accounts for different things can also avoid that tension in a relationship. Maybe you do have a roommate and you share an apartment and your roommate wants to buy decorations and wants to buy new furniture. Then you have another roommate that wants to save more money because eventually that roommate wants to buy a house. So then how do you talk about how do we separate accounts so we can have maybe an account for things that we want to buy eventually, but then I can have my own account where I'm saving money for future things. Maybe you can have investment strategies that can increase your investment to a point now that you can give to others. Now you can be generous with it and you can donate to your a nonprofit that you want to support. Maybe you can donate it to causes that help on things that you really care about. So start by aligning on values. And again, it doesn't have to be a romantic relationship. It could be a group of friends, or it could be a roommate that you have. What are your value that you guys can agree on? And what are the tactics that you both can put in place that can help you get to that shared destination that you have? And then the third one is creating shared financial goals. And this is so important because this is what gives you the roadmap, or this is what gives you the guidance of what are the things that you are both working toward. It's okay for each individual to work on their own goals. But if you have someone, if you're sharing a home with someone, if you're sharing an apartment with someone, or even family members, like what's the shared goal that you can work together toward? And then if you're in a relationship, you both can sit down and ask the question, what do we want money to do in our relationship? What do we want money to do in our tomorrow? So this is something that you can also, for those that have young children, I want to go back to that question that someone asked earlier. How do I set healthy communication? Because you don't want to influence, or you don't want to pass down bad trauma. So first starts with your own script, understanding what's your script, and then understanding what's the behavior that's attached to your script. So if you grew up in an environment where money was scarce, or where money was a tense topic, then address that script and say, wait a minute, no, money is not stressful. It's the way you see money. It's the way you're managing your money. And then you can adjust your behavior, because children, when they watch you, they watch that behavior. They watch the behavior of you getting stressed when you talk about money. They watch the behavior of you making the decision, instead of saying, I don't have we cannot afford that. I always like to use the phrase, it's not within our financial plan right now. So if you talk to your children, if they're old enough where you can talk about, we have goals that we can accomplish together. I have goals, and we have goals that we can accomplish together as a family, talking about those goals rather than staying silent will improve that communication. It will also help them understand, okay, I can set my own goals and I can work to those goals. So again, switching that messaging is there's no money for that, but rather say it's not within our money plan right now. Maybe we'll be in 6 months, maybe we'll be in 7 months, but right now it's not within our plan. Or maybe if you have a family and say, hey, no, we're saving for a house right now. We're not going to spend money on X now, because we are really focusing on buying that home that we all want. So again, when they listen to you and when they hear you, okay, my parents have goals, or my parent has goals and they're working toward that. It doesn't mean that we cannot afford it right now. It just means it's not within our plan right now. Okay, we can address it this summer. We can talk about it again later tonight. So again, our behavior will help them build the experiences in this script. So I want any questions there, any comments. I don't know if the person that asked that question has an additional comment or question. I think that communication is key. Just talking about shared goals as a family, talking about as a family, what does it mean to have financial peace? What is it that you're working toward in your family? Again, saving for a home, or just paying for our needs and making sure that we have an emergency fund if things come up.
Thank you for that. Someone just made a comment saying that the rephrasing of saying to a child, hey, that's not in our financial plan right now, is fantastic. So thanks.
Great. I'm glad that resonated with you. I have two boys that always, every time we went to the store, I remember going to Target all the time. They always wanted to buy a toy. And I've always wanted to rephrase, no, it's not something, we didn't come to buy toys. We came to buy X. So the language definitely influenced their thinking and the way they're going to deal with money in the future. But I want to stress again, especially as we're talking about money and relationships this month, what's the shared goal that we can all sit down and set together? Because that is going to help us with the tactics that we need to put in place to achieve that shared goal, which in turn is going to bring peace to the conversation because now we're all on the same page and we all have the same understanding of what we're working toward. What is it that we're building together? So talking about that vision, talking about those values, and then agreeing on the tactics that you're going to have, it's going to bring harmony and peace to that conversation, understanding that shared vision. I know it sounds easier when we say it than actually doing it, but if we put this into practice and, okay, let me identify my script. It's not my behavior. I first need to address my script. And then what are the values that I really want for our family, for our relationship? And then what are the things that we can put in place that's going to support those values? And then the third one is how do we sit down around the table? How do we talk about on the drive to the school? And we talk about what's our shared value as a family? What's our shared value as a relation in a relationship? What do we want to do, build together? And then have share goals and share vision. And that can bring, again, peace in the conversation when it comes to our money and our finances. So I know we have a couple of minutes. So I want to make sure that I address this. How to have that healthy money conversation. First of all, choose the right time. That's the first one. If you have someone coming home from work stressed out, maybe that's not the right time. And before you have the conversation, ask, is now a good time to talk about money? It's now a good time to talk about our credit card balance. It's now a good time to talk about that pending bill that we've had. So again, choose the right time because the emotion that you're feeling at that time is going to influence how you're going to communicate around the money topic. So don't bring that up when someone's feeling stress or distracted. Be clear about the expectations, meaning I really want to take this time to share about X. So instead of grabbing the bill and asking, so, well, I checked this transaction and I see you spent $200 here. What was that? So that is going to be more like a tense conversation, but rather, okay, I want to talk about, I was going through our credit card statement and I saw a transaction there. Is this a good time? Is it okay if we talk about it now? Whenever we have time, let's talk about it. Listen without defending. Focus on understanding, again, the perspective of the other person before responding. Where is this person coming from? If you don't agree, then show respect. Again, understanding that other person may have a different script or a different money story. So understanding where the person is coming from instead of engaging into defending your actions or defending your point of view, just find that shared common, what is it that we're talking about here? Agree on what it feels fair. Example, what does it feel fair to you? I mean, how many of us have children that say, that's not fair? You know, instead of walking away and say, okay, what does it mean to be, what's it mean to be fair? Let's talk about that. Again, having the communication, understanding the comment of the other person opens that communication and understanding. And again, with that shared goal. Reconnect to the relationship, not the transaction. What is it we're trying to accomplish here as a couple, as a family? So one example here is, what do we want money to help us do together? Always includes us together. And what is it that we want to avoid? It's one thing, yeah, this is a good thing, talk about what the shared goals are, but what do we want to avoid? And then the last slide, Jennifer, that you can send out, it's just resources and materials that participants can take back and read more about and understand more the financial psychology, money scripts. So I wanted to give a list of resources that you can go back to and read more about. So thank you for listening. That is all I had. I don't know if there's any additional questions or comments.
Yes, we have one here, a comment that says this has been really great, a really great presentation, opportunity, sharing of information. And they have to hop, but they said thank you very much.
Awesome.
And another one here. Give me 1 second.
Mhm.
And then someone who wants to connect a little further with you, Samantha, and thank you for that question because I will be sharing that opportunity right now about how you can connect with Samantha one-on-one. So if you will hang on with me, I know we're a little bit over time, but first I want to start by saying that Worth and Wealth usually runs weekly. But for the beginning of this month, we're doing monthly seminars just for the first 3 months of the year. And the one next month, March 4th, will be tax time without stress, filing basics, and tax credit explained. So essentially, we'll have a representative from a Vita site, the Leo Inc. Vita site specifically, talking about how to best prepare for taxes and some resources for people to get their taxes done for free based on eligibility, and just ways that you can write off certain things depending on your income or the type of work that you do. So please come and join us for that for some tax tips. You can always register, I mean, not always, but you can register for a 1 hour free coaching session with Samantha Morales. You can scan the QR code here or visit the mass.gov page, but I'll also link it in that follow-up email that I sent to everybody as well. This is your 1 hour where you get to ask any financial question that you would like. From budgeting to saving to paying off debt, there's really no requirements, or you don't have to come in with any materials. Just bring your questions, show up, and take this 1 hour for yourself and your finances, and to tackle some of those scripts we spoke about today. And lastly, we have an online platform called Enrich, where you can find articles, videos, infographics, other webinars. I mean, you name it, it's there. And it's from a variety of topics revolving around financial education. So I always recommend anybody go on it, check it out, read some articles, watch some videos to see if there's anything that could be helpful to you. And that is it from us here. Any additional questions, feel free to email us, and feel free to get in contact with me if you want further connection with Samantha. Otherwise, I hope everyone has an amazing Wednesday, and thank you for coming.